Buenos días. ¡Ánimo! Bueno, vamos a informar el día de hoy. Primero.
Good morning. So we're going to be informing today. Today we'll have Secretary of External Relations, Marcelo Ebrard, and General Luis Crescencio Sandoval. After that, we will be giving information about the project of Chapultepec, of the 3 sections and the incorporation of the 4th, where there was that old gunpowder fabric that Tabasco had founded. All that incorporation to the lake and green fields of Chapultepec, the park, in this entire zone of Mexico City, in the artistic park of naturalism and artistic areas most important in Mexico and among the most important in the world. So keep in mind that that 4th section, that was Ermita, Santa Fe, where the old gunpowder fabric warehouse was. All that spots, they were about to sell that area. They even had quotes, had valuated already, and we took the decision when we got here. This due for backup to the defense of Secretary of Defense that we make that 4th section. These things are forgotten usually, so that's why we got to be reminding you every so often, so that great project will be exposed. And we thank the Governor of Mexico City, Sheinbaum, Culture Secretary, the master artist who is responsible for all these projects, Gabriel Orozco.
También se invitó a la arqueóloga María de Lourdes López Camacho, porque pues Chapultepec.
Lourdes Camacho as well, because Chapultepec,
un centro arqueológico fundamental en el valle.
It's fundamental works in the Valley of Mexico. After explaining the Chapultepec area deal, we're going to be talking about who is who in the Lai section. And from there, we would have the information that of what is happening in the Genaro Garcia trial in New York. That's where we're going to be finishing up, and we'll start with the questions and answers. We'll start with Marcelo Ebrard. With your permission, Mr. President. Good morning to everybody. To inform about the missions of humanitarian assistance from Mexico to Turkey and Syria and Chile. In the case of Chile, there's been assistance on the burning of a lot of acres, and that's why the backup of Mexico has been done with a lot of pleasure and happiness. And the job sites have already been assigned. We've sent the second team of firefighting units in Turkey at 5:47 in the morning. Landed the Mexican Air Force flight in Arana is about 440 kilometers away, so that's the closest we were able to land, more or less, maybe less than 3 hours by land, of more impact in the area of Turkey. The Mexican team, as it's been informed, it's integrated with personnel of the Marines and Mexican Army, Red Cross, Secretary of External Relations, and Turkish Airways. On the other hand, we've had arriving Los Topos because we had to get passports, so that's why they're not in the same flight, but they're going to get there either today or tomorrow. And the team, of course, has already been received. Jose Luis Martinez, ambassador of Mexico in Turkey, and they're going to be taken directly, so they're going to start working in the heart of the locations. So there's 16 special dogs trained specially to start training to rescue people. That's the idea. That's the objective. The mission has been called Rescate Mission, and inform Mr. President that they are there as you requested. I think there's an image. I'm not sure if we can see it. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Don't forget those likes, and tell everybody else we're here. You can share these programs. This is the one from Chile, the ones that are combating the fires, and the other one, the other image, is the one from Turkey. That's the one. That's actually live in Turkey. Marine Secretary and the Red Cross. That's all the teams. It's almost 3 p.m. over there right now. And they arrived on their time, 2:47 in the afternoon, Mexican hours, 5:47 a.m. So also inform you guys that on Saturday we'll have the visit of the President of Cuba, a visit of high level. We're going to have their reception in Campeche. There will be different activities and visits for a bilateral visit and a talk between the President of Mexico and President of Cuba. This will be Saturday in Campeche, and Sunday conclude from the Cuban President, and by the side of Mexico, Mr. Andrés Manuel Lopez Obrador. That should be all on my part. With your permission, Mr. President, good morning. Please, thank you. Continuing with the information of the humanitarian assistance, we have on this spreadsheet the information where the 300 elements that have been forming part of the assistance, they're on command of General Diplomat Juan Bravo Velasquez. They have been displayed. The first step on these dots that we can see in Jumbel, Santa Juana, and Florida, there's been 5 brigades spread out, and these brigades are constituted by personnel of CONAFOR and a guide, a Chilean guide, that is helping them to be able to locate the areas where the plans are supposed to be taken care of. What they've been realizing and completing on the right-hand side, 64 acres already been turned off, 24 kilometers of guards, 84 living quarters saved to be avoiding being burned, and 120 kilometers of area inspection of the areas where they should be working on. The affections that we are getting in Chile, that we have in the middle, there's 24 dead and 2,880 injured, 1,145 living quarters damaged. And the second step will be spread out in an area denominated Araucaria in Chile. And as the Chancellor mentioned, today it's going to be 4:20 a.m. when they arrived, and they make that meeting of coordination to display and spread out as needed. And this is what we've seen on the first scale. On Turkey, we can see the way that it is organized: 93 elements of the armed forces, 37 of SEMAR, which is the Marines, 15 of the Red Cross, and 5 of external relations. The command is General Jesus Piñón, and the 16 dogs, trained dogs, that are with us as well, medical personnel, communications, and feeding forces for the public attention that we're going to be spreading out today. And this has been foreseen so that we can have those 3 areas covered in full. Of the organization, here's some images where they started organizing themselves to be able to leave towards Turkey. That should be all on my part. Mr. President, good morning. Thank you for allowing us to share the advances of projects. Good morning. And Governor, Secretary Elizabeth. As in other subjects, today in this culture, it turns into a right, not a privilege. The project of naturalism and culture, it turns spaces that were previously closed to the public so that they can now enjoy, and for a space, a real space of the joy of the rights, cultural rights. The first entrance, as you know, is the one that opens the first section. It was the old residency of the presidents. Now it is of the people, Los Pinos, that has cultural life since the first day of this administration. In this space, of course, we've received 9 million visits since, and right there you can see Lázaro Cárdenas' home area that has memory of all these times of one of the best presidents of Mexico. This site is the one that is founded by the residency of Los Pinos, and you can tell and you can see the memory of the historical president of the public life in Mexico. Another spot that transforms into a different thing, that was an administrative section of the Estado Mayor. It is now turned into as a museum that you can see there's a richness of our culture, rich culture of the lands, and it also has a possibility for the people that live here and the visitors to witness and see this richness that we can purchase directly from the people that create them and their food as well. And one of the circuits that you can find there, and this circuits of museums, has been a long time before the maintenance or being taken care of this area in this infrastructure. And with this new intervention, we can make the restoration and the Museum Rufino Tamayo of the area of Público Siqueiros, Museo Caracol, and of course the Castle of Chapultepec, and of the Museum of Anthropology that will start the new room for showing off all the items. There's also 8 different theaters that are totally being rehabilitated, more of 20 years that it has not been able to be remade or fixed, the structures for the scenic arts in Mexico. On the second section, in this area of culture and environments, we have created, with the presence of Mr. President, the Center of Culture, which in this space, one of the things that Chapultepec represents, a space where the conscience of towards nature and the impacts of the climate change and the look out for the environments and the history that this extraordinary park has to offer. And other things that you're able to see in the second section. In front of this area is the Cárcamo de Dolores, this space that was conceived by Diego Rivera with some murals that were a long time, many years under the sea, under the water. And La Fuente de Tlaloc were 2 of these structures that were totally restored, as well as the piece of Andorra Andiel Busic that comes with this area. Also, the historic, emblematic Museum of History and Arts. This is an architecture of the 20th century, one of the spaces that has been renovated with this whole project. The third section was the Atlantis style of areas. It is now the culture parkour has been taken over by the young locals to this area that has never been or never had been occupied before. It has these strips of skate park area with Olympic characteristics that are unique in this city. On the fourth section, thanks to the instruction of Mr. President and thanks to the Armed Forces and the National Guard, we are making the fourth section, which is a big territory. And there's going to be 2 emblematic structures, Cinemateca Nacional of the West, and you can count with 2 different locations, one indoors, one outdoors. You can see the theater, movies, and histories. This will open up this year as well. In the warehouse of arts, the museums of art are overtaken so that these conservation of items and many different items are stored. The artistic treasures that are there, it's a privilege where you can find a warehouse full of them, and we can visit that area to find how a artistic piece can be found in this area. As well, in this area is the old gunpowder warehouse, and now it's going to be turned into a cultural area. As Mr. President has mentioned, Tata Vasco founded this ermita, a beautiful ermita that has been restored and is open now with cultural programs for the Santa Fe locals. and that also Gregorio Lopez had lived there in Ermita, that dedicated himself to make the first area of medical attention, traditional medical attention in Mexico. And this is how the cultural, the environmental axles are united of this type of work that has been coordinated with Orozco, so that we can have the biggest park, cultural park in the world. Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, Mr. President. Good to say hello to you. It is a pleasure to be able to show the advances of the project that we started 3.5 years ago, and that we've worked on together with the City of Mexico, with the secretaries, to be able to have what we can now see of a connectivity, more accessibility. We can see the recuperation of the public spaces and the green areas, as well as the Bosque de Chapultepec. We can also see how we are recuperating a part of our history, transforming it for a political and cultural and environmental politic that can be an example to other cities that have the fortune to have these areas, how to take care of them, how to develop them, how to enrich them and restore them. The avenue, Flotante Avenue, that was inaugurated just a few weeks ago. This was ready since November. The area, cultural area, was also inaugurated. The COVID has slowed us down a little bit, but we had to stop the rhythm of work. But we are now back into good rhythm. We hope that by the end of the year, with the energy and all the effort that we've done together, we can turn in Chapultepec Park vigorous, healthy, and very, very fertile. Even more fertile than it was. Thank you very much. Good morning. When it comes to the archaeological stance in Chapultepec Park with cultural naturalism, we found a lot of items and articles that date to more than 3,000 years, and that we are taken back to these small groups of hunter-gatherers that were around the area. The next investigations will make us rethink of what we think of the area, because it wasn't taken by one group. The history is telling us that it was many cultures together in one, cultures of the east, the west, the north, the south of the country, and that are concentrated in the Cuenca de Mexico. What's important as well is that these items are being found in less than a meter from the surface. So what it means is that millions of Mexican people have walked over of a patrimonial area, and we haven't even noticed. This is an opportunity to work strongly in archaeological sense of speaking, and how the age and the age of the park retakes us to a time that we have the dates, but it's telling us that it's 2000 before the birth of Christ. So it's 2000 that we have now, and we're speaking about almost 4,000 years of this area. So we hope that we can do a runaround as to what really happened in Chapultepec, but we would really need to rethink what we think of the park. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you to all and everyone. I want to take on some discussions about this. This is an urban park of 800 acres. It was donated to the city, 88 acres of what is the fourth area of the park. You're going to see Cineteca Nacional, the National Warehouse, different ludic activities, and it's going to allow us to connect from what we've seen and to what we know now, Calzada Flotante, the Flotante Avenue. I want to show you some images of what we've been doing since the Ajolote Museum, the rehabilitation of Constituyentes Road, next to the Market of the Flowers. Really quick, you can see the area, the avenue, Los Pinos. We have rehabilitated the parks. There's going to be a new avenue, a floating avenue in Chivatito that connects the first and second sections that couldn't be connected because before the Los Pinos was a national security area, but now that it's public, we can do this connection. And as well, the spaces that work in the park, we can fix those. Rehabilitation of all the small parks around the green fields from the first to the fourth section. The rehabilitation of the fountains. Really quick so that we can... And lighting systems and security systems are on. As well as the graveyard, which is the first civil graveyard in Mexico that has a great history and has been rehabilitated as part of the third section. And all of these restoration of environmental wise, the recuperation of Barrancas, recuperation of the lake of Tacubaya, and finally, something really nice, the University of La Salud, of Health, University of Health, that it was an old military installation and now it's a university. And all these fourth sections of the first and fourth, there's going to be a way of communication, a modern communication, that is through the cable bus of Chapultepec, that is going to, it's going to be going through Metro Constituyentes to the fourth section, and it's going to allow us through 6 sections to learn about the 6 spaces, the structural rehabilitation, and the allowance to the city of Mexico, to the people of Mexico City, because this park is for the people and it's going to be one of the most beautiful parks in the city of Mexico. This will all be done throughout this year. The last part will be the cable bus that will be ready in November of this year. Thank you, Mr. President. With your permission, Mr. President, good morning to everyone. Today is the 8th of February, and this is the section of Who is Who in the Lies. We're going to start with the first one. They create notes to hit the National Guard because of his work in El Metro, even if it's incredible enough. Since the beginning of the operations of the National Guard to guarantee the security of the users and take care of the installations of the Metro of the City of Mexico, there's been spread of fake and news and lies and constant attacks. This is a really big campaign of misinformation. Starting 12th of January of last year, the National Guard spread out more than 6,000 elements or guards. Ever since then, newscast media went against the militarization of the Metro and has spread out attacks and lies about the National Guard. members. One of the examples, but there's a lot, one of them is the publication in Twitter of the account InfoCDMX News of the 20th of January of 2023. One of the images taken out of context where you can see 4 members of the National Guard carrying a person in a wheelchair inside of the installations. And this tweet assures us, supposedly, that it means of a detention of a supposed delinquency of sabotage and damages to the communication lanes, supposedly for throwing a metal can with metal coins. This is fake and a creation. This picture was taken out of context since it actually responds to a publication done from the user in Facebook, Juan Carlos Rotec, that shared this picture on the 20th of January, and in response to the elements of the National Guard helping a person in a wheelchair to go down the stairs. Aside of these attacks, National Guard in the metro of the Mexico City area, it's still going to be there taking care of the people and taking care of the persons that are using this transportation system. But let's see what Juan Carlos Rocha has put in public in his webpage, where he shows the National Guard have been assisting the people that are utilizing the system of transportation, and not as others the opposition wants to make it out to be. Let's go to the next one. It is fake as well that ex-President Vicente Fox had created the pension of elderly people. The ex-president Vicente Fox Quesada has gotten us so adjusted to do these declarations, fake declaration. He's a really shining president. He's doing full time to criticize the federal government. Many of those times, most of them, he puts fake lies or rumors. This time, he published a few days ago an image with his face where you can see, "Thank you, Fox, creator of the pension of elderly people." This, of course, is amazing because even Fox has been a strong critic of social works ever since. You don't believe us? All right, let's go look at this. The assistance to elderly people is to take our country and our economy to bankruptcy. Absolute contradictions. And up until now, he's doing that. You're going to go, it's enough to go into his Twitter account where he published, government has less resources to get from, and the dissolution balloon, it's still growing, and when it explodes, it's going to be a scandal. Mr. Fox doesn't like the social works, but let's go to the facts. To 2020, the governor, Manuel Lopez Obrador, then and now president, he established the universal payments to the elderly people, and in November of that year, established that law, and now President of Mexico elevated to constitutional rank the right for pension for all the elderly people over 65 years old in the country. So this means that nobody can take that away. In 2003, in the official diary of the Federation, there was a law established that gives us the right to establish this law for the elderly people residents in the then Distrito Federal or Mexico City. And right now, and now that we're speaking about this, gives us the opportunity to inform you that this pension to the elderly people is to contribute to their dignity, to their well-being, through the giving of a pension that helps them to get better conditions of life, and at the same time allows the access to the protection to the social protection. The amount they receive is 4,800 pesos by month. So that is a way they can receive part of the more than millions of Mexican pesos available for them to 2.5 million people that receive this. And let's talk about the last one. How a few of them are shown to lie, and for what they say, the fish dies, for example. And a few of their lines in El Financiero says, listen to this. A long time and money has the Andrés Manuel Lopez Obrador has invested in this Genaro Garcia Luna trial in the court of Palacio Nacional. Raimundo Riva Palacio, who was editorial in El Universal in the time where the witness in Garcia Luna's trial, Héctor Villarreal, exhibited finances of Coahuila and declared that Genaro Garcia Luna paid 25 million pesos per month in bribes to that newspaper place. Riva Palacios assures in his column the intent of the presidency to vinculate journalists that have questioned the credibility of the prosecution against Garcia Luna. And it doesn't say, it says they have no guidance, no ways. Either way, it shows us a desperate way to shut the strong press among intimidation. As you can see, in the afternoon after this was written and that they have published this in El Financiero and in Eje Central, that also is governed by Raimundo Riva Palacios, we had already known about the bribe, $1 million bribes, million peso bribe in receipts that didn't even have a folio or a number and have as supposed destination to rescue the tourism area. That's how they invested the public monies. But here, it's only these facts and their own words. But we're going to show you how, because of what they say, they're going to go down. It looks like in a few cases in the testimonies that we're listening to, it's not necessarily, if he had to take care of them, it looks like he did a poor job. And if they say, well, we've kidnapped him because he wouldn't answer our phone, well then, I'm not sure what a good accomplice he would have been. I'm not going to assume as in the table that he is guilty. I said that I didn't know. I'm not sure if he is guilty or not. What I do know is that the prosecution is going to have to do something a lot deeper, more serious, and much more concrete that was given in this week. They gave him a bribe to Garcia Luna for $1.5 million in bills, $100 bills. $1 million is 10,000 packs of 100, of $100 each bill, and they say that he took in a bag that like a long bag, like one of those army bags, or you can take to a gym, and not only does it not fit, it weighs a ton. So then 1,000 kilograms. Well, what I do know is that it doesn't fit in a bag. 10,000 packs of $100 bills each in one pack. Well, it's that this is not the only in social networks that we've noticed that there are people that as well are in favor of Garcia Luna. As I've mentioned in this section, Vicente Fox, that says the trial of Garcia Luna looks like the piñata of justice. The party of Morena look like scavengers getting wood from a burning tree. And we're going to be closing up to this things they're talking about. Thank you. Well, we can go back to regular speed now. This Tuesday, 7th of February, in the 9th day of the trial of Genaro Garcia Luna in New York, the prosecution called Edgar Reca, alias El Diablo, security prosecutor of Nayarit. He's already 20 years in jail for receiving $2 million a month from narcotráfico or trafficking. Bea, his then boss, ex-governor Ney Gonzalez, told him that he participated in a meeting with ex-president Calderón and Garcia Luna, and that he was given orders that La Línea was with El Chapo. The order was to protect El Chapo and his partners and not Beltrán Leiva. Even like that, they continue working with Beltrán because Roberto Saldovar, then was the mayor of Tepic, had already had an agreement with Los Leiva and had already gotten money from them to be governor. The witness narrated that Roberto Saldovar turned into governor in September of 2011. He was called sub-procurator, and he assured that in those times the El Chapo lawyers, who identified Chaparro and Cala, looked for him with the ends of offering $10 million to buy Plaza of Nayarit. Nevertheless, he changed and continued helping the Hachis, as the Beltrán Leivas were known. In 2012, the then governor Roberto Sandoval looked for Garcia Luna to ask for a backup and more security members for the state. So he flew to the city of Mexico with Beltia and his nephew Hugo Sanchez to a reunion. Sandoval had meetings with Cárdenas Palomino, was speaking that he was helping the wrong side, referring to he was helping the Beltrán Leiva and they should help Chapo. Beitia described that in one occasion in 2012, state police stopped a truck, a suburban black truck in Tepic, but right away police got there to help who was in that truck. In that spot was commander of federal police in Nayarit, who said that he had direct orders from Garcia Luna to let go that viejo and not to search it. Beitia let the truck go. In supposedly his contact with Beltrán Leiva, possibly we had El Chapo. Next day, he received the commander of the federal police in Nayarit, who placed Garcia Luna in the phone and thanked him to free that truck and tell him that he was there to help him as well. In 2011, he refused an offer, Beltran Leiva's offer, that offered him $5 million to let him operate just the Chapo sons, and not Beltran Leiva's. And also, Garcia Luna was on his side, he said, and then he was paid $8 million in exchange of backup. And thanks to that, they could kill H1. During this questioning, the defense started questioning Bella for not mentioning Garcia Luna before 2019 and insinuated the only thing that he was looking for with his testimony was to reduce his testimony, his years. And also spoken to Earl Anthony Wing, the defense asked the diplomat if he had received information about Garcia Luna that he was corrupt and received money from the narcos, and the witness said no. Up until this, the prosecution kept questioning him and assured that the federal police was not effective with certain organizations because they weren't against the cartel of Sinaloa nor the Beltran Leivas. The prosecution called 2 additional witnesses. The first one was Jose Moreno, ex-FBI agent in Mexico of October of 2009 to 2014. Moreno narrated how he stopped defending what was in Los Cabos to capture El Chapo. FBI also shared information spying on the El Chapo's telephone with the federal police through his contact Ivan Reyes Arzate. But the agents, federal agents in Mexico, they got there late to the operation and El Chapo could go away. The next witness was Marin Tarantino, which was a public servant in immigration towards the U.S. that presented as evidence the request of Genaro Garcia Luna to become a United States citizen since 2018. The witness also manifested that Garcia Luna in that request stated that he never committed a crime, and this questioning was stopped due to timing, but will continue today, the 8th of February. It's well to mention that the prosecution was requested to give us, or give the court, a witness calendar so that we know how long the trial will be. There you go, huh? That was interesting. Well, we still got a little bit to go. We got to work on the sports section now, jokingly. That's how they used to say, the columnists used to say, of the news programs. And now we're going to go to the sports sections. And it's only sport. Okay, so it's that they're playing around in Venezuela in the Caribbean tournament. Our paisans of the Mochis team, and they're doing very good. They're in first place, so they're in the finals now. They won 2-1 to Panama, and the day before yesterday they beat Venezuela 7-0. El Caribe series is doing good, and Cañeros are playing from Mochis representing Mexico. They're doing a good role, and there's this commentator, baseball commentary, very good friend of mine. He's always giving me all the information, and he sent me a video that I want to share with you guys. Well, it's not a video, it's an audio. It's really short, but so that you guys can get an idea. we don't leave the sports out as well. Good morning, Mr. President. This is Fernando Ballesteros, and I inform you that Mexico has advanced as leader of the first round in Caribbean Series in Venezuela after defeating Panama 2-1. Los Mochis Mexican team, we're going to be confronting Puerto Rico in a next game, and we're going to know the semifinals where Mexico is going to land, and we expect that they're going to be in the finals this Friday. What we haven't received in Caribe for our country since 2016 for Venados de Mazatlan. You have a great sympathy of Wasabe's team and stick out what they're doing. Their 7th reinforcements. Felix is the best catcher of the event, and Rafael Caldera, the electrician, doing backup at the time. This is my report, Mr. President. I hope that you are still working hard and batting for a good percentage as you've always done for our country. Long live Mexican baseball team. Thank you, Ballesteros. Well, there was a couple that were pending, Ramon Ramirez Gutierrez and Jorge Chaparro. Mr. President, good morning. Ramon Ramirez Gutierrez, Elot Newscast. As always, the Paisans, as they know that they send you a big thanks of all the social works that you've sent to the state of Oaxaca, especially benefits to the indigenous and people migrating. That thank you very much. There's some particular situation, they're not general, but for example, Chocholteco peoples are asking for audience to see the airplanes that think they bomb the clouds and don't permit the rain in the zone. In Santo Verde, there's a pending area of assistance. They made an area of 100 meters to flatten the area, but sadly, it has not gotten continuity. As well as giving you a salute of Anini that they're ready for their lands that were promised to give their titles of ownership. And aside from that, inform you that ESOY, this fund, this financing for the advancement of Oaxaca, it was the ex-senator Hector Sanchez has dedicated himself to run the communities, but we still need to work on the budgeting because there are a few urban zones that are going to be benefited with electricity, with small cities of Oaxapan, and would be ready maybe on the 17-18, but they need to agilitize because these are towns that are living there and they need the lighting for all the activities. As well, to inform you that yesterday you mentioned the Bienestar markets and that they're going to be starting. Oaxaqueño people are really thankful with the Salomon Jara governor that is now president of the CONAGO. Without a doubt, that will bring benefits. And now, aside from this, I manifest this for what this meeting represents, this conference, and the power that the federal members have. My first question is, yesterday you mentioned that the first business of Carlos Eléctricos was going to be in San Luis Potosí. As we know, Tesla has the possibility to open installations in Mexico. We have the Istmo de Tehuantepec areas. What possibilities are that the industrial southern areas that is planned with all the growing international areas and that Tesla could land warehouse there? Well, we are promoting a lot of activities for the industrial developments and their locations in the city that can safeguard and have good options, strategic options for the development of that industry. In this case, of the automotive industry with electrical vehicles, we got the Plan Sonora. This is what we're doing in El Bajío, as well as what we saw and we inaugurated as a new face in San Luis Potosí with the new plants, BMW with BMW of electrical vehicles, as well as the coming from this company that there's two possibilities that we can get in Nuevo León or in Hidalgo, really close to the Felipe Ángeles Airport, and the Corredor del Istmo. There's 3 industrial parks. We're going to get the solicitation. We got the compromise if we have the availability that 4 of these parks are used for the generation of electrical energy and ionic electricity. And this is an agreement with the agreement of the government of the U.S. so that we can contribute and we can face the climate change situation. The 17th of March, they're going to be with us in the Istmo, Tehuantepec, and Veracruz as well. These legislators, that is a proposal that the U.S. is stating. They're coming with the Ambassador Kent Salazar on the 17th, on the 19th, and on the 21st of March. I have to be there, as always, in Guelatao, in the afternoon of this act, this ceremony. We're going to be passing through El Istmo because it's really probable that John Kerry might be there to see about the parks, the ionic parks. The purpose there is that they're part of the Federal Commission of Electricity, and that the financing is given by the U.S. or the banks of the United States with rates, low rates, 0 rates of interest to the Electrical Commission, Federal Electrical Commission, and that the businesses, Mexican businesses, and the U.S. companies are working together. That's what the agreement. So the 10 parks of the Istmo de Tehuantepec are solicited. There's a great demand for them. There's a lot of future in the Istmo, a lot of future, because there's been rehabilitations of the railways since Guatemala, the frontier with Mexico, of course, and up to Ixtepec and Salina Cruz to Coatzacoalcos. You got rehabilitation of the ports, even Puerto de Chiapas, we're going to be working on infrastructure as well. A wave breaker or stopper of 1.5 kilometers for Veracruz, so that big ships can come in with a lot of cargo. And the same thing in Coatzacoalcos. And with the train and the parks and the industrial areas, that area in itself has enough developments. There's a lot of activity because in Salina Cruz there's rehabilitation of the refinery. There's a plant being constructed as well to process fuel, oil, and turn it into fuel. And there's a investment of millions of dollars. And on the side of the Gulf, Minatitlan, we are rehabilitating the refinery. There's going to be a creation in Coatzacoalco, a plant to transform the gas, a liquefaction plant to freeze the gas, and we can transport it, and then we can re-gas it, turn it into gas again. This in Mexico or in Europe. And the contract has been signed as well to take gas from the gas ducts from Tuxpan, Veracruz to Coatzacoalcos. So Istmo has a lot of potential for the development of the industry, and of course it's thinking about the east coast of the U.S. that is practically a virgin area, no commerce there. On that region of the U.S., all the commerce and the exchange, economic change, is in the north. But of course, with these works and the rehabilitation of the ports, we're going to be able to have more commerce with the U.S. We have now a boat that has the capability to load a train, about 70 wagons, and unload in Alabama, and it connects to go to New York and all the East Coast. That is already happening from Coatzacoalcos. So it goes into the boat completely, 70 wagons, and they take merchandise. That has a lot of future. We've just found out the details about the growth, economic growth, and for the first time in a long time, these southeastern states that didn't grow, economically speaking, in decades, instead of growing, there was decreasement. Now they're in the first spots of the economical growth, because what we're trying to do is not leave them alone. Without leaving the Bajío, the center, there's been investments in the southeast that was completely marginalized, and we are leveling the developments. Before it was like this, now it's leveled up, and that is extremely important. It's about to revise the growth data, like in Chiapas, that is on the first spots of economical growth in the first place since the last year, and in other states like Oaxaca, Veracruz, of course Quintana Roo, but that has been the exception there in decades. For Cancun and the other states didn't grow. Other people in Chiapas, Oaxaca, and Tabasco, even Campeche and Latano, would go to work to Cancun because there wasn't any work in the southeast. Now it's different. Things are changing. But we're going to take into account all that you're asking about. My second question, Mr. President, in the migration subject, part of the Mexican society, and with this I want to say hi to Chancellor and the Governor in Mexico City, in 2024, we're going to keep seeing this migration situation. Mainly, they're talking about the 33 Estado, and 32 Mexico City, and 33 the Mexican migrants. That yesterday they were telling me if there are more money that they're sending is because they trust the government, but they're still feeling a bit resigned with the power they have to elect our governors and the political participation that they have in the U.S. But why don't we, if there's time, create the Estado 33, and why aren't they allowed through the passport and the consular ID, which are very credible documents, the possibility to be able to participate in the elections of 2024? Well, I think that, well, I was going to ask him to speak about, but he left. Well, there was an explanation about that, but we're going to ask Marcelo when he's here to help us, because in fact, there's been a lot of tries to facilitate the possibility to vote to our migrant paisans, and there's no advancement. Matter of fact, we've dedicated a lot of funds to that purpose, but now we got to do something special. Hopefully that we can all assist so that we can facilitate the possibility of that all the migrants can have the rights, that they can guarantee their right to vote as citizens. So we're going to be asking Marcelo when he's here, that when he comes back, he can tell us about this. Hopefully about the development in the South-Southeast is integral, and we're very happy in Istmo de Tehuantepec, Oaxaca, but hopefully that on the 21st of March you can visit Mixteca, Cañada, or Tuxtepec areas so that they can feel close to you, these Oaxacan people. And my last question, Mr. President, there's a pending subject about the massacre de Nochistlán, the massacre of Nochistlán. There was advancements in Ayotzinapa massacre, but there was many people in Nochistlán that it's still pending for justice, and you've said it before that we need to know the truth on that, right? Yes, we're working on that. The prosecution has that. State prosecution has it, and on this sad repression situation, and we're going to be asking for information as to how it's going. And we're going to be arriving to Mixteca because they've been asking me to go in Mixteca. They're right. I haven't been able to go. I've been in Oaxaca and other regions. I went to Tuxtepec, but I need to go to all the regions of Oaxaca. We're going to be visiting, and we're going to be doing justice in all cases. The prosecution office has the state has all these cases, and we're going to ask that they're not going to end up in paperwork. All right, so now it's Jorge. Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning. Mr. President, you've told us that the spirit of the electoral reform that you've sent to the Republic of Congress Republic, it's to change the cost of the elections, that they're not too expensive for the taxpayers, as well as a very frequent ways that's happened. And nevertheless, when we spoke about the electoral situation, I told you about two elements that were not included, and they were added by the legislators. One of them was eliminated, was the eternal life of the parties, political parties, and there's another element that calls the attention as well, is that the political parties were obligated for a resolution precisely for the electoral tribunal that Morena had promoted to move the resources that weren't used during the year of that year that we were speaking about. Nevertheless, in this occasion, the political parties are promoting that whenever they don't use in a year, they're not going to return it, and they want to save it and use it in the next year or the next federal process, whether it's local or federal. This obviously makes the elections a lot more expensive, and it goes against the proposal that you made. And the question is, what are you going to do about that, and what are you going to ask the Congress to do about this situation? Well, there's been advancements about this issue. Unfortunately, the conservative bloc was against it, was against the reform, the Constitution, to reduce the costs of the elections. Just like that, the Senate and the Congress and their leaders, with the idea of el INE is untouchable, they avoided that the funds that are destined for the offices in Mexico is the biggest in the world that is given to the parties. That is why that instead of 25,000 million pesos per year, we give out 12 or 15,000 million. But they lied to a lot of people. That what we wanted was to destroy INE or control them when they are the ones that are taking over el INE since a long time ago. All these leaders of the parties, the ones that felt they were the owners of the country. What's happening is that the people in Mexico are thinking now, and when they imagine that they were omnibus, untouchables, absolutes. That's why they're so nervous now. They're not gonna recuperate from that because people are stating that aside from their mechanisms of control and manipulative ways, there's been a change. So they've dedicated to block the whole thing of what it means benefits to the people. So they were trying to block that. They blocked the constitutional reform. That's in depth. Because we were proposing instead of 500 legislative members, that we could have 300. That we can eliminate all the pronominal and that the elections would be free, without purchasing of votes, without changes in the results, as it's been done for years. The oligarchy, the ones that felt they were the owners of Mexico, and their helpers, their assistants.
Acabamos de conmemorar
We've commemorated one more anniversary of the Constitution of 1917, and I still haven't gotten a response to the question is how was it that in 36 years they reformed the Constitution many times up until taking their origin, the writing and the spirit, the original spirit of the Constitution of 1917. That's how they annihilated it. It got annihilated, and Flores Magón brothers went out with a long sheet that said the Constitution was dead. That's all we needed. Well, because in 36 years, they dedicated themselves to reform the Constitution, to give to personal people, to particulars, the banks, the public businesses, the mines, the petroleum, electrical industries, the ports, the airports, the railways. Well, even the jails were sold. The nurseries of the Social Security nurseries. They dedicated themselves to add to the taxes, to that consumption tax, and at the same time not to charge any taxes to the big companies. They gave out the pensions for their administration to financier groups, to banks, pensions of the workers. They wanted to privatize completely the education, health. And the question is, to those who are defending them of that style, because this was going back to Porfirio Diaz times, to go back to everything that we've gotten with the sacrifice of 1 million Mexican people that fought in the revolution. The question again is, okay, what did they legislate in benefit of the people in 36 years? Nothing. It was all against the people, of the majority of the people, to benefit just a few. So, in the case of the electoral, of course they were against it, to the constitutional reform, and the only thing that was left as a possibility was a reform to the law, not to the Constitution, because to reform the Constitution you need 2/3. This is a good lecture moving forward, of course, so that when there's voting, we have this known that there's 3 things that you're voting for. You need to think about the candidate. You need to think about the party. But above all, you need to think about the projects. That is how it used to be said, the main thing. And since 2/3 were not obtained, we go back. They send the reform back. So they only gave us the opportunity to give a legal reform that requires of simple majority, but really shortened up because that reform itself to the law, according to the electoral law, it can't go against of what's been established already in the Constitution. Even then, taking care of, respecting what is established in the Constitution when it comes to electoral situations, and only taking care of what's possible, and in this case, that there's less investments or waste of money because the INE members are a golden bureaucracy, especially the ones on top. The INE's president and all the councilors earn more than I do, and that's a violation to the Constitution. That part was the one that was shown, basically. That was really, at the end, what I proposed. Oh, but wait. Even that, they considered it a attempt to democracy. These hypocrites. Because it's like the world going back. And now they presented a controversial constitutional controversy in the Supreme Court. So we're going to wait, see what happens. But the truth is that it was really important, this constitutional reform, to harden a real democracy, true, not costly. Nevertheless, even with all the obstacles that we're facing, the essential situation here is that democracy is called the people. The sovereignty in democracy is the people. And with all their apparatus of manipulation and control, they're not going to be able to stop the democratic advancement. But the question is, as well, they are receiving 5,000 million pesos per year. PRI, PAN, and Morena receive that amount each. And they are the three beneficiaries, and today they want to save money and spend less in an election that they're probably not even going to win, or they're going to put women that don't even have the backup of the people, and that's how they make them lose to the candidates that don't have any opportunity, and they're going to save that money. And they're going to save that money to waste it in what? When the people needs the money with the social works, when they need more money, let's no, it's not for me. Let's ask Claudia X Gonzalez, who is the boss. But the question is the same. Yes, but they're spending a lot, and that's what we wanted to avoid. But this was approved by Morena, El Grupo Verde, and PAN, and PRI, and all of them. Well, the conservatives that you mentioned voted against it. But the essence, the original idea was to take out completely these excess of the management of the budget of the parties. Are you going to do something about it? It's in the court. You promised the veto, and before to go to the court, you need to veto. But imagine if I do that now. They're gonna quote me as a dictator. but the law has not been approved. It would need to be approved by the Congress and then published by you, by the executive, and that's the moment where you can use the veto before it gets to the court. But from what I understand, 2 laws that have been approved. There's 4 more. If we still got 2 more to go, then that's a deal. We're going to do it. And the debt is the conservative bloc was opposing the reform. I was proposing reducing the budget, that it wasn't 500 but 300 legislators, and that the councilors were not picked by the parties but picked by the people. That's what I was proposing. Yes, but in this possible law, the desirable was that. The possible is what they're doing to save that money, have it for the next exercise. And you know the Mexican politics, when politicians and political parties have money, things get complicated. Well, and it's not only that. And I've talked about it before. When the electoral reform was created in Cedillo's time, there was a disproportionate advancement in the payment, and I refused the money. I have moral authority to be able to say that we didn't used money from the people in excess for political works. And in that time, you know what Cedillo told me, because we decided not to vote for his electoral. Well, he told me, I'm going to see you cashing the check. You're not going to see me cashing any check. So what did we do? We used just a part of it. That the reform added considerably. And we created 3 funds, 3 different funds to back up widows that lost husbands and were deprived and reprimanded in Salinas de Gortari times, about 200 of them, and to their widows, and this is for the young people, to their kids and their widows, so they don't think that democracy got here, and the one we have has been a thing of the people from the INE. We've arrived here because of the people, with the sacrifice of a lot of people. We kept that, the backing, some of that money we gave to the widows and their kids. Second, there was housing in the frontier to help out migrants with that money. The third, that fills me of a lot of pride, we decided to use part of the money to give free books to the middle schools that were not free. They had to purchase them. The parents had to purchase them. I'm telling you about 1996, 97. Wow. We started giving the books, free books, with that money of the funds for the party, with the excess to the municipalities where we were governing. We gave free books. So Cedillo got cholera for that. And he got the instruction. He gave the instruction. This is really important to be opposer, but defending the people. And you know what happened? That ever since then, all the middle school books were turned in a free manner. It was because of us. So never before have we wasted money from the budget, but because we've always sustained that the budgets is money of the people, not of the government nor the parties. It's money of the people. So now, hey, but we need more. Because the parties, of course, Claudio and his business partners of the conservatives opposed the reform. And now that the law, the electoral law, is being contemplated, that is not the same to say, because that they have whatever that they don't use to reuse it after is not the same as minimizing by law of what they need to use, what they're going to receive. That's what I was speaking about. But I'm going to see to it. But it's a deal of about, honestly, intranscendent. It bothers me, actually, because these elites, a divine section, a golden bureaucracy of the INE and other organisms that costs us a lot, that it's expensive for us to maintain them. They're good for nothing adults, but the in depth, really, the democracy is a reality in the country, and they're not gonna stop it. This democratic movement for the people, the change, the motor of that change is the people. That you can't forget. And we need to internalize it. It's not the electoral organisms. It's not the power structures. The politician. The protagonist of this new story is the people of Mexico. So we're going to see about this. Okay, and just so to close this, you don't only have the moral authority, but you have the judicial authority to fix this, right? Actually, I don't. I don't have the power. There's independence that wasn't there before. I'm really happy because the majority of the ministry members. No, I'm talking about the veto. Yes, I'm talking about the veto power, but I'm going to use that for things that I consider more important. If I don't, then I'll get the campaign coming in that I'm acting in an authoritarian way, and it's better that's how legally corresponds to the Supreme Court. No, but But it's really important to separate the powers. Just imagine the change that would mean. The president of the court to speak is for me in president. As president. Oh, see, there you go. Why was it then before the president? And that was because before the president of the Mexican country would put or take away the president of the court. I'm going to tell you a story. When I arrived as governor in this Mexico City area, it's the same thing, but now it's local. But that's how it is in every state. It's the same thing. And this comes from way back from the Porfirian times that decided they gave the president the right of way even before he opened his mouth. Magistrate of the tribunal would see me, of the judicial powers of Mexico City. They would go see me because they were going to name the president of the Tribunal Superior of Justice. They wanted to go see him so that to give my approval. That's how the process was. And I said, no. You guys get to elect them. That's how it's supposed to be. But that was really strange for them. They didn't know. And I said, no, you need to pick it. I needed to, actually, then I can tell you about that, but I needed to propose to Congress, in this case the assembly members, to who were going to be from judges to magistrates. And I would tell them that the change would be sent from the judicial powers. And that same request was the same that I would send to the assembly. So I told them, no, you guys get to choose them. And so they did. And they named one. Do a journalist exercise as to who named the actual or the current presidents of the Superior Court Tribunal. So it could be there's a few exceptions, but the governors, whoever named the president of the court, the president of the country, who named the local workers, who named or set the governors, the presidents. Everything goes up to they give it to the president in Veracruz, a person in honest Don Adolfo Ruiz Cortines. No, it's Porfirio Diaz, the creator of this golden rule. The president names all of the public workers, federal public workers, governors, senators, legislators, and the senators to the local people, tribunals. That's you can still see, because this is a process that has to be changing. So this happens. I end my term as governor in Mexico City, and I'm asked by Mr. Batis, can you help us? We were the opposing team then. The president of the tribunal, of the Chief Justice, there's a person that I'm not going to name. It helps us a lot. We need to be helping the people, and he behaves well. And what he asks me is a breakfast with me. And I said, no, what are you thinking about? It's, you know that I like to have breakfast in my house. Tamales de chipirin. And it's not so easy that in other places I get the same. Motoleño eggs, or... But, because Batis is a first-class guy, and we had some businesses, and there was working, so I went, and I'm having breakfast with him, and he says, the first thing I want is to thank you, because of you, I'm here. I said, no, not because of me. If you were named, elected when I wasn't as governor, no, but you left the idea. And that's why I'm here. Because he did a campaign and he was elected. So we're living in times, stellar times. If we apply the old politic ways, it means to speak about what they used to do before. Secretary of Government, that was his work, that was his function, to speak one by one, and whoever wasn't able to hear, they have to continue. So we're living in extraordinary times. And why? Because it makes us free. If you have employees in the court, for example, and there's corruption of the judges, I need to be quiet. So if we're independent, we can speak. And as you know, I don't like to be covering up people. Well, this is about the same thing. It's because the best ways is what I was proposing. That 20 candidates for the judicial power, 20 candidates for the executive power, and 20 candidates for the legislative, 60. Of course, half women, half men of them, and then we know who they are, and they choose. People choose them. Not like it's been happening, that this group get together and look at how the ones today. Ask them, who named them? Who put them there? 3 chosen by a party, 3 by another, and 1 or 2
el resto de los partidos.
for the rest of the parties. That's not the right thing, Mr. President, and using your experience, these comments of Nayarit, Governor, for the ex-president, do you think yesterday Felipe Calderon came out saying that he didn't have a deal with narco-traffickers? Your point of view, knowing the essence of the politicians, do you think that this is believable that Beitia gave in the court, independently of everything? What I think is that there are things that there cannot be hidden, cannot be put away, even when it comes to delinquency or criminality, or it is being told that to get to the truth, you need to find the money. So when I see a person that has a lot of money, for example, that didn't have any money, and that goes to the government and turns into this millionaire, that's when I say that's the main delinquents movement. The rest is secondary. Would that be the case? Yes, of course. When it comes to Garcia Luna. No, I was asking for the ex-president. That needs to be proven. If he knew and was beneficiary of the dealings, illegal dealings that were taking Garcia Luna to accumulate all this money. And what about your opinion on this? Let's wait. I don't want to forward anything, because yesterday the editorial director of El Universal came out to say that I was the one promoting all of this. Ken Salazar, I've never spoken with the ambassador of the U.S., not even with President Biden. It's a question of principles, independency. But this guy goes out there and tells that everything that's happening in the U.S., this trial has to do with me. Just imagine, it's about judicial authority of the U.S. And even if it means the prosecution in Mexico, that is independent and that is autonomous, and I don't even dare to give them instructions, as I don't do, as we spoke about the judicial powers. I don't even dare to say anything here. How am I going to be having the control of the judicial power of the U.S.? To Mr. Garcia Luna I never dealt with him, never spoke with him. I had the fortune that when they were empowered, Calderon himself, that I can say. After the fraud, I can say that we were stolen the presidency. So then they empower themselves, and then I go through a attack, a media attack
de todos los medios de información, por consigna, una guerra sucia.
of all the media
Y decido,
companies.
por suerte,
And I decided, luckily,
no por el creador,
or by the creator, of course,
porque la suerte también
because luck
en política,
means a lot.
a recorrer todos los pueblos de México.
I go
Y políticamente
and
me dan
visit all the communities in Mexico.
quién iba a publicar mis declaraciones.
Because who was going to publish my declarations? Nobody.
Entonces,
And they thought I was dead, basically.
ellos
So they
pensaron, porque hay hasta constancia una
they
vez.
thought, because really there's actually proof,
¿Y cómo está
evidence.
López Obrador?
How's Lopez Obrador doing? Where is he?
Ahí anda,
He's around
reuniéndose con 5,
towns, getting 5, 10 people together,
como loquito.
like a crazy guy.
Y ellos acá,
And then they were so busy up there,
en la élite,
the
sintiéndose
elites,
todopoderosos,
feeling almighty, powerful,
con un mareo
with a really
tremendo, porque el poder atonta a los
big
inteligentes
dizziness, because the power
cuando no hay principios, cuando
makes
no
the
hay
smart people dumb,
y a los
when there's no
tontos
principle,
los vuelve locos.
and the dumb ones go crazy.
Se sentían
So they felt
todopoderosos,
almighty, powerful.
de ahí los excesos,
From there,
mucho.
the excesses and a lot of money, of course. And President Calderon has identified with all these,
No tengo
with his income. I don't have any information on that, because
que se
it was asked for the people to decide whether he was going to get investigated or not, to him and other ex-presidents. And even as if the majority did vote for them to get investigated, we didn't get enough percentage of participation
para que la consulta
for the consultation
fuese vinculante.
could be
Va a corresponder a la autoridad y no nos adelantemos.
worked on, but I planted it for a long time. There's three things. One is that Garcia Luna
Es inocente,
is innocent,
fabricaron el
and there was a fabrication of the crimes. That's one.
tendrá
There,
el gobierno de Estados Unidos
the U.S. government, the prosecution, need to explain really good of what happened.
¿sí? O sea, porque es increíble que
Because it's incredible that
3 años detenido
there's 3 years behind bars, supposedly, that they have all the proof,
y es
and
el parto de los montes.
it's the separation of the seas now.
Esa es una.
That's one.
2, bueno, y si es así,
2, and if it's like that,
¿qué preocupación puede tener?
well, then there's what business or
La segunda es que sí
worries
se metió,
could
se
Calderon have?
probar cosas,
The other thing is that if he really did get involved, and then Garcia Luna is going to get in trouble, but
no sabía o no
he didn't know, or they don't get Garcia Luna along with Calderon, they don't put them together.
la segunda. Y la
That's
tercera
the second one. And then the third one
era García Luna,
is that it was Garcia
y
Luna,
solo sabía Calderón.
and that Calderon did know
Sí,
about it,
complicidad.
and there's complicit,
Eso es lo que vamos
and that's what
a terminar de
we're going to end up
conocer.
knowing.
A mí me llamaba mucho la atención porque
What really caught my attention was,
como esto es
since this was
un asunto de asociación,
a business of association, delinquent
una relación
association,
de componendas,
there's a relation of complicit situations.
ya no lo digo pues, y no lo voy
I don't even say it, and I'm not going to say it again.
antes sí lo decía,
Before I would
una
say it,
mafia de poder,
that it was this mafia of power.
se acabó.
But now, I'm not going to say that.
Como existe toda esta tipo
Since we got all these
relaciones,
types of relationships,
ayer no
yesterday, I'm not sure today, but
Vi los periódicos.
I saw the newspapers.
Nada más por de formación profesional.
Just to inform myself professionally, per se, and only one
Trató el tema.
talked about it.
De todos.
Of all of them.
Ahora ya me imagino pues que
Now I imagine that
está en 8 columnas.
it's in 8 columns in all of them, right?
Vamos a dar una repasada.
Let's give it a go.
A ver las 8 columnas de todos.
All the 8 columns.
Porque, a ver, dicen los periodistas mexicanos, ¿no? A los que
Because the Mexican
la nota
journalists,
es la nota.
they say la nota es la nota. The note
Pregunto, ¿es nota o
is
no
the note. Is nota or it's not a nota?
Bueno, pues
Well,
vamos a ver si es nota.
we're going to see if it is a column.
Acá no fue nota.
This was not
¿Cuál es?
a nota.
Consumo de cigarros.
Consumption of cigarettes and waste
No fue nota.
doesn't see
Adelante.
continue.
Nada.
La jornada,
Ahí sí. Ahí sí fue nota.
that's where you can see it.
Protege al Chapo.
Protege al Chapo, protects the Chapo
Orden de Calderón y García.
by request of Calderón and Garcia Luna, Beitia said.
Síguele. No, es la misma. Implican a Calderón, pero de oídas.
They imply Calderón, but through rumor.
No, pero sí está, ¿eh? O sea,
But it's there, they're talking about it, whatever, but they're talking about it.
aunque sea de oídas. Bueno, adelante.
But even if it's a hearsay,
Ahí sí. Embargo
Milenio, they
en Nueva York.
poked on Calderón in New York,
Y él niega todo acuerdo con el narco.
and he denies all
Adelante.
business with the narco.
Ahí sí no.
Excelsior, nope, that's not there.
Pensión para adultos mayores.
Pension of costs to elderly
Síguele.
shoot up.
Financiero. Ay,
Financiero was
se la llevaron también. Impone récord el comercio México-Estados Unidos.
Commerce, Mexico, U.S. It's a good one, but they don't talk about Calderón.
Síguele. También. Superávit comercial de México con Estados Unidos. Alcanza récord. Está buena, pero...
There's record as well. It's U.S.-Mexico treaties,
No,
but they're not talking about Calderón.
ese no, ese es deportivo, ¿no?
That's a sports section, right?
¿Cuál es ese?
Which one's that?
Y... Sí. Y tras la pandemia, educación.
And behind pandemia, education without a way.
La razón. Ah, no.
La Razón newspaper.
Ahí sí.
There you can see
A Calderón.
Beitia
Nunca pacté con criminal.
throws against Calderón.
Eje
You
central.
can see it there. Eje Central newspaper.
¿Cómo se llama?
Riva Palacios.
No, pues ahí está. Está muy difícil.
No, well, that's how it is.
México, país con más ataques a civiles.
Mexico with more attacks to civilians in 2022.
Síguele.
Next one,
Crónica.
Chronicle.
Colaboradores del aire
Newspaper.
grabados al recibir
Collaboratives
tampoco.
to receive a lot of bribes. Nope, they're not talking about Calderón.
García Luna, síguele. Militantes no dan un peso a sus partidos.
Militants don't give their money.
No.
Sol de Mexico.
Síguele. El Heraldo.
Heraldo.
Iglesia pide piso parejo para
Church
2024.
is asking for fair use for 2024.
Contrarréplica.
Contra Réplica newspaper.
Ahí
There it is. Felipe Calderón ordered protect
Cartel de Sinaloa.
Sinaloa cartel, they reveal.
Publimetro.
Publimetro newspaper.
¿Ese de dónde es?
Where's that one from? It's a franchise, actually.
Encienden alertas por venta de drogas.
They start alerts for selling drugs in primary, elementary, and middle schools.
Pero estoy hablando de las 8.
So I'm talking about the 8. Santos Ploma.
¿Y esto qué es?
And what is this? La Prensa newspaper. Oh, a shooting in Iztapalapa. Okay. It was a party. The Mural newspaper. A couple gives contracts for 565 million contracts. Nuevo León foresees 150 more of funding.
No es nota. Adelante. Ya, se acabó. Ahí se fueron. A ver. Mujeres.
Investments. So women, let's go with the women now. Good morning, Mr. President. Nancy Flores, Contralínea. Good morning to all. Mr. President, ask you about the case of Genaro Garcia Luna. How is it possible that in Mexico the authorities were not known, didn't know that this person was allied to the cartel of Sinaloa when Felipe Calderón had a big apparatus of, they say, as you told, that there was espionage and evidence that they didn't know. Even Guillermo Valdez was in there, and then Alejandro Preire, when they had the whole technology in their hands, and evidently they had controls of security, not like to revise the authorities, even though that they're going to be taking on the secretary of Genaro Garcia Luna, and then the evolution situation of patrimonial situations of the public servants. So ask you, Mr. President, that how is it that this intelligence or spy organization didn't know about this, and what do you think about the desperate situations of others of trying to disqualify the witnesses that were there, knowing that in the mafia there's no paperwork, there's no receipts, supposedly. It's even ridiculous to think that there's receipts made by Joaquin El Chapo Guzman and signed by Genaro Garcia Luna. So this desperation that leads them to having witnesses of these situations, and they say that they don't count. Well, we need to wait. I insist. In the conclusion of all the process, it's really important that we deal with the situation, that it is not hidden. For what I've always sustained, the no repetition of things. Because this really is abnormal, actually. I mean, it's not possible that even the Secretary of Public Security is being tried to protect delinquents. But even more, in a time where the war was declared to these gangs of narco trafficking, and it all takes us to that one of them was protected, or a few of them protected, to attack others. That is something really incredible. Furthermore than a Netflix series, this is what we're looking at. So the important thing is that we know, so it never happens again. And let's wait. It is evidence, and that is not even going out at all in the in the trial. The intermittence of the agencies in the internal life of the country. I mean, I commented that they called to declare this ambassador of the U.S., but the one that was there before, Pascual, was the more active one. He would say that the Marines, Mexican Marines, were more trustworthy than the army, Mexican army, and that they trained the Marines in the U.S., and that they provided information, intelligence information, to those who would take care of the operations. Even there was a sort of a clash with Calderón, this ambassador, and I say with Garcia Luna as well. And that's why they took him out. And they put the one that declared, this one. But the one that knows more is Pascual. Because it's in WikiLeaks, what I'm telling you. So it's a thing about reconstructing the whole story. That's what you guys are going to need to do, all of you. What I care about is that this never, ever again happens to our countries. That our sovereignty is respected. That there's no working together in between delinquency and authorities. That we eliminate completely corruption, no impunity, as well as that we take care of the causes of insecurity and violence with assistance to the people, that we take care of the young ones, that there's employments, that is well-being, that there's hopes, that nobody is obligated to go and take the ways of the anti-cultural, anti-social conduct. That's what we're pushing for, and that's what we're fighting for. And we are advancing, and it's contrary to the authoritarian thinking that we had in those times, and that very many still are sustaining. That what we need is strong hands, coercive measures. You can't use violence with violence. The bad, you cannot confront it with the bad. the bad, you need to confront it doing good. And we have a good heritage of cultural, moral, spiritual values has diminished for people thinking of themselves, for the sacking, for the corruption. And what do we need to do? Well, we need to enlighten these values, reconstruct our social web, enforce family integration, put honesty before anything, integrity, principles, of course, love for one another, and stop using classism as a way and racism as a matter of working, and stop thinking, of course, of what is worth is the one that has. But no, the one that has have value, but they have good values, not money, not material things. That's the change. So now we're going to be waiting to see how this concludes, but is a complete replacement. Look at the pictures. I mean, put up a picture of Garcia Luna, his style. Before that, the politicians were very unique to dress with their guayaberas. How are you? What is the family? How's the family doing? And now you're going to see that style. Palomino is reigning. He's the second. Cardenas Palomino. Look at him. What principles? What ideals could they have? What is their substance in ideals and principles of Garcia Luna? With all due respect, of course, they don't know the history of this country. But the way they dress, of course, when they receive Hillary Clinton, for example, and in general, and then you could put Palomino's picture. It was to go up, move up, and keep going up. But it was a way of doing politics. And where do they come from? It's like when, with all due respect, Senator Chong, that studied in a primary school like I did in Pachuca and started escalating and goes to governor and he goes to live in Las Lomas, like the Beverly Hills of Mexico City,
una residencia.
in a big residency.
Nada más así.
Just like that.
Ponga Palominos.
Now Palominos.
Incluso, ¿qué preparación
And what preparation
en términos?
in terms of security
Nada.
did they have?
Los formaron ahí.
Nothing. They formed them in Cisen.
No, acaban de poner una de Palominos cuando
You just put in Palominos. Oh, but it was on the video. Okay, never mind.
Y así seguramente
And that's how I'm sure
hay un tercero.
there's a third,
Sí,
Ramon Pequeño,
ese
and
corte.
of that
Sí,
same cut.
ahí está, mira.
Yeah, that's the one.
Ese es el asunto.
That's the deal.
Presidente, en este mismo tema, preguntarle porque en Contralínea
In this
estamos,
same
haciendo
talk,
un reportaje en varias
because
partes
aside, we're
sobre
doing
cómo
a
se maneja
report
el
as to
presupuesto
how
público
the
al margen de lo que
budgeting was
se
managed
aprueba cada
when
año
it
en
came
la Cámara
to
de Diputados.
the Cámara de
A partir
Diputados
de un cambio
of
que hizo Vicente Fox para darle esta
Chamber of Commerce
prerrogativa a la
and to give this
Secretaría de
prerogative
Hacienda,
to
específicamente a la
the
Subsecretaría de Egresos, para que a través de acuerdos de
spending
administración sacara
secretary
fondos
through the
de
administrations
ciertas
would
partidas a
get
otras y no se
funds
consideraba
from one to another, and it wasn't considered
Usted ha
speculated.
analizado durante mucho tiempo
You have
el tema de la
analyzed
partida
through a long
secreta de
time
Salinas
the
de Gortari,
secret
y se puede hacer un símil
starting, and you can
caso
see
de Salinas de Gortari,
do a different
cuando se
way of
enfrentó a
working
Ernesto Zedillo,
since
cuando ya se
Ernesto Zedillo was taking over.
un sistema
It's a system for a judicial system of justice as well that found that there wasn't any responsibilities to Salinas, that there wasn't a destined to that working together, that the politicians didn't say that this had to be spent on one or two things. Salinas did with this money, of course, we all know, is give money to his family. This money went out to fiscal paradises, and aside of paying businessmen, politicians, leaders, writers, Aguilar Camil with his checks, and to journalists. Right there, you couldn't demonstrate the payment because there wasn't a destination. In the case of Calderon, there was a destination to the public funds, and of course to this administration that he could finance his war against crime. Millions of thousands of pesos went out from that secretary for urgent payments of defense and military payments. We've been publishing the documents that speak about the purchasing of equipment of espionage, and it coincides with the Pegasus situation, and including the systems that are described in these documents coincide with the system of Pegasus. In this case, Mr. President, that there was funding that from one end to another was transferred, wasn't it? Or isn't it? Isn't there the possibility that to see if this crime of moving money without letting the Congress know and without the authorization of Congress, that this is works of Salinas? Well, about this working together that existed for a long time and the managing of the funds in the Salinas times, there was a book written, Pablo Gomez, that he wrote that can tell us about this situation. And there was an interview done Now that Carmen Aristegui doesn't speak about that, there was this interview done that she made to Miguel de la Madrid, that passed away, about the secret works. But then, of course, he went back because he was convinced, he was already elderly. Miguel de la Madrid was convinced and signed the letter that everything he said wasn't true, because he wasn't well of his mental state. And that was an amazing thing, because it had to do with the family. That's why I want to retire, because I don't want anybody coming to me when I'm old. Comes up to me and says, well, he's about to die, so don't believe him. It's really important know when to retire. But about that, there's a lot. When it comes to that discretional managing, send me money, hey, Mr. President, Aguilar Camil would write to him, to Salinas, what you guys published. There goes the check. Checks of the letters. How? If I can't even say, tell Secretary of Hacienda, I order you to take this into account and pay him. I can't do that. The budget needs to be used according to what is approved in Congress. Not even the funds of the presidency can be utilized. I don't even manage that. So that kept happening, and I don't remember quite well where Calderon and Fox. But what I do remember is in the past term, presidential term, and I think they were inherited in government. Congress would authorize a part of for security, and they would approve 200 million. And at the end of the day, what was used wasn't 200. It was 3,000 million or 6,000 million. And then you can tell me what happened. Well, what would happen? It was approved by Congress for the same thing, because they had the control of the legislative power. I mean, the public accounts was approved by Congress, meaning it was legal that they do that. But of course, in government, if you do the analysis of the management of the funds, you're going to find how much is authorized by the Congress and how much is used. And it was an increment 6, 10, 20 times more at the end. And a lot of things, for security reasons, were not informed. The amounts were not known, not even the receipts. I would try to explain to you that the last trip that they took on the presidential airplane, I think it was to Argentina or something, that the receipts of 7 million pesos of internet expenses during the flight, how is that? How is that? 7 million pesos in internet expenses. Shaving items, I think it was 1,000. I'm not sure they shaved 50 times a day or something. They were fake receipts. It was so they can steal the money. And I don't blame, of course, President Peña, but the people that were managing those receipts and funds, of course, maybe you're talking about they didn't notice, but that's how it was. So what they didn't have, because there was money that Estado Mayor would manage, it was National Security Team, so there was excess of all kinds. But I repeat, and that's how I'll end. We'll end because it's late. Now let's go have breakfast. Last question. Don't take a lot of breakfast, all right? Don't accept a lot of meetings for breakfast. In July of the last year, you did a call out to Governor Sheinbaum that happened in the Marcelo Ebrard times, and the cost for 20 million pesos, you called out the governor to revise on the contracts that how it was done in the electrical company and Pemex of Leonil contracts, and as well that were able to lower, was this able to be taken care of, and was there spoken to the companies about this, and when there's any benefit to the people living in Mexico City, because they were talking about a multi-million cost. You have your audiences, of course. You can answer that one there on your conferences. Let's go have breakfast. Alright, they're deciding who's next. You know what I'm noticing? Just what I'm noticing is that there's no equality of women and men, so we're going to need to fix that. A day only women, one day all women journalists come to a question. Well, there you go. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for being here. Thank you so much for the people that managed to hang out up until the end. Of course, it is really understandable that most of us cannot be here during the whole thing, but it's understandable, and don't worry about it. Thank you very much. Don't forget that we have our other channel. Tenemos nuestro otro canal donde podemos ver más noticias, and we're going to be following up with that in the next few minutes. En los siguientes minutos vamos a estar transmitiendo. We're going to be transmitting on the other channel that we have. Please go down here to the section where you can find all the links and find the one that says AZTECRON Entertainment Oficial, and that's where you're going to be able to go and see our latest videos. Thank you very much. We'll see you tomorrow on the next Conferencia de Prensa of Mexican President Mr. Lopez Obrador. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Have a great night, great day, great evening. Please take care of yourself. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.